3, 2, 1, go!
Welcome to a special edition of Felons Ain't Failures. It's your boy, Big Coop, the Knowledge Kingpin. Let's go to class. Today is a special day, a very pivotal day, a very important day in the history of this country. Let me ask you a question. Imagine learning that you were free, but 2 years after freedom had already been declared. That's the story of Juneteenth. Imagine being enslaved while other Americans get to celebrate the 4th of July. Now imagine being told, oh, by the way, you were free 2 years ago. And then a system put together to keep you from celebrating that freedom. On this day, Thursday, June 19th, we're going to celebrate and talk about Juneteenth. Let's go to class. Juneteenth. It stands for June 19th, 1865. We shorten it to Juneteenth. Now, I also want to make a little side note. Juneteenth, or June 19th, is also the day I was initiated into the greatest fraternity ever known to man, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Why is it the greatest? Let me explain. There's a gentleman named Carter G. Woodson who started Negro History Week in the 20s because he was told that we're going to erase all of Black history. Back in the 20s, he was told this. He said, no, we're not. No, we're not. And he started Negro Achievement Week, which now we call Black History Month, which is a month that we celebrate, even though we're Black every day, we celebrate the contributions and the accomplishments of Blacks to this country, our country, the United States of America. So yeah, shout out to my fraternity, Omega Psi Phi, and the day I was initiated just happens to be on Juneteenth. Coincidence? I think not. All right, let's get back into it. So most Americans, as you know, for almost 100 years, were celebrating Independence Day, 1776, July 4th, while we were enslaved. Then when we became free, because Lincoln did declare us free in 1863, January 1st, that's why you celebrate January 1st. We were free on that day. It's called the Emancipation Proclamation. We didn't find out until June 19th, 1865. Now, on that day in Galveston, Texas, there was a general, Union general, a Gordon Granger. He arrived in Galveston and said, hey, by the way, you were free 2 years ago. There were people still working as slaves, not indentured servants, as slaves on plantations in Texas. Now, it makes sense that Texas was going to be one of the states that did not want to free the enslaved Africans. Let me explain. Let's go to class. During the Civil War, which lasted from 1861 to 1865, May of 1865, there were several states in the South that wanted to secede from the Union. Secede means break away and start their own country. Texas was one of them. Mississippi was another. Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, mainly the states that we now call in sports the SEC. That's a little joke for you. But listen, these states wanted to break away from the Union because they did not want to give up slavery. I know people want to say, oh, the Civil War was about states' rights. Yes, states' rights to have slavery. So what you got to do is go and read the secession letters. Go and Google the secession letters of the southern states. I've read them all. Every one of those letters state that if we can't have slavery, we won't be part of this country. I'm telling you what it is. So when somebody tries to lie to you and tell you, well, Civil War wasn't because, it was exactly because of that. Free labor. And of course, Texas had to be the linchpin of the states that didn't want to, that wanted to secede and didn't want to give up slavery. So of course, Texas knew about the emancipation. You think they're going to say something? No, they didn't. They let people work for 2 solid years. Imagine the profit being made in the textile and the cotton industries in Texas during that time. So Texas was the most remote Confederate state, so many enslavers resisted setting people free. I mean, they had free labor, so why would they? But they were forced to. So it's so important that we talk about this every year because I'm going to tell you something. When one tries to erase your history, one wants to repeat what was done to you. Let me say that again. When one wants to erase your history, one wants to repeat what was done to you. They have the means and the resources to repeat what was done. It's funny that the states, or what we call now the red states, were the same states that wanted to leave the Union. And those same states nowadays are helping this administration try to erase, because all that was been done since we've been free in this country was the proposed erasure of our history. They've always tried to do that, and they're still trying now. The other day, President Trump took MLK statue out of his office, or out of the Oval Office. You know, just little tokens of symbols of how this administration wants to erase us. You know, going to the Smithsonian Museum, the African American Museum, and want our artifacts to be taken down. Not Polish artifacts, not Russian artifacts, not Jewish artifacts, African American artifacts. So we've been fighting this fight for 150 years, trying to get Juneteenth to be recognized as a holiday. It was recognized officially in 2021 under the Biden administration. But here's what you need to know. Roughly 250,000 enslaved Africans learned about their freedom 2 years later, all right? So it wasn't an immediate freedom. It came in stages. Many enslavers waited until the harvest, watch this, and forced people to work through the harvest, and then you can go and enjoy your freedom. Now, what always happened was when we celebrate, it brings about white hate. So when people celebrated their freedom, then white mobs would come and burn our towns, burn our cities, and what have you. Because right after slavery was Reconstruction. And during Reconstruction, we were thriving. Now, we couldn't participate in white success, but we could participate in our own success. We were thriving. So here comes Jim Crow to try to stop the progress, that's what it did, of the formerly enslaved Africans. So why Juneteenth is so important is because it marks the actual end of slavery for all Black Americans. Some were free, but the last ones were free in 1865. It wasn't just a large declaration. Everybody was free at one moment. It came in stages. It's a story of delayed justice also. It demonstrates how systemic oppression delayed freedom, even after laws were passed. And it symbolizes the ongoing struggle for justice, equity, and freedom that Black Americans still face. There were so many laws and legislations that were designed to keep us at bay. I got my notes here. I got copious notes that I wrote, and I wanted to jot down. So early Juneteenth celebrations included parades, prayer service, barbecues, and the reading of the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, if you're familiar with the actual paper, the document, it's read every January 1st in a lot of places across this country. Here in St. Petersburg, the NAACP has a ceremony every January 1st to read the actual Emancipation Proclamation. I suggest that you actually go and read that, right? It's very powerful, very moving, and it denotes that we were free. Now, like I said before, the emancipation was not an overnight process, because think about it. You got 400 years of free labor. In 1800s, we led the world in cotton production, and the profits that were made from cotton were astronomical back then. Some economists suggest that the profits or the wages lost valued at today's inflation, equal to about $4 trillion, about $4 to $7 trillion that Black enslaved Africans lost during the time of slavery. So if we lost $4 trillion in wages and profit, then who did it go to? It went to this country. It went to a large group of people who benefited from um, our labor, basically. So you got the emancipation that happened. You got Juneteenth, right? June 19th. Then you got this resistance against it. All this resistance. Like one of the worst things that were written, the amendment was Amendment 13, the 13th Amendment, that said, now watch this. If you commit a crime, yeah, you're free. If you commit a crime, you go to jail or prison and you forfeit your right to be free. Now, we didn't make that law. That law was made by rich white landowners. So rich white landowners are going to do things to entrap us to go to jail so they can get their free labor back. That makes sense? So the 13th Amendment was designed to to capture us and to enslave us again. That created the prison industrial complex, which we still battle today. Almost every urban neighborhood has been affected in some way by the prison industrial complex. So you got the 13th Amendment that was designed to put us back into an enslaved position. So you also had people fighting to have Juneteenth to be a holiday for well over 150 years. Well over 150 years. And Jim Crow was designed to stop the celebration or stop the progress of Juneteenth. Not just that day, but everything that came because of that. The progress in business, the progress in politics, the progress in education, and the progress in religion as well. Now, why do we need to celebrate Juneteenth? Right? Here's the reason. Because we need to keep that in the top of mind or in the forefront of this country. This country has tried ever since we were free to erase any positive aspects of our contributions to this society. And we're just not going to let it happen. Right? So we have to keep it top of mind. There are always these attacks on our history, always these attacks on our festivals, people trying to get rid of them, trying to pass laws against them, even when it comes to voting. If voting was so insignificant, then why were we always met with resistance on trying to vote? You know, if it was so insignificant, it was so unimportant, then why all the bloodshed for trying to do so? So it's not just Juneteenth, it's what Juneteenth represents: equality, justice, and freedom for formerly enslaved Africans. And we need to honor those people, right? Juneteenth is a celebration to honor. Today, we honor those who fought for our freedom. I can't even begin to thank our ancestors enough for what they did. They never, ever stopped fighting. People think, you see these pictures of times during slavery where slaves are singing on a porch and playing a banjo and everybody's happy. That was not how it was. They were always plotting. There were always uprisings. There were always rebellions. There was always fighting between runaway slaves or slaves that galvanized and the people who tried to keep them slave catchers or the slave owners. Think about Nat Turner, who was galvanized a lot of slaves for one of the biggest rebellions in this country. And of course, he was caught and killed and dismembered his body. But that's another story for another time. So we have to honor those who fought for our freedom, from the Igbo who jumped out of the boats on the way over here and drowned themselves, to those who were sold into slavery, for those who had their families broken apart, for those who were lynched, beaten, dismembered, tortured, just the terrible things that were done to us because people were not going to just sit back and let somebody submit them for no reason, basically. We also have to honor abolitionists. There are a lot of white Americans who gave their lives for our freedom. These were called abolitionists. They were true Christians who did not believe in the torturous enslavement of people. And one of the most famous abolitionists, of course, was Frederick Douglass. One of the most famous white abolitionists was John Brown, who gave his life at the Battle of Harper's Ferry. He did not believe in slavery. He sure did not believe in the way blacks were treated. And he stood on the forefront and in the front lines fighting for our freedom. Those abolitionists, we have to honor those as well. And just like we do the freedom riders in the 50s and the 60s, who would ride down in buses to Alabama and to Mississippi to take on the racist ways of our country. A lot of whites died as well, the freedom riders. We have to honor them. And the generations who carried the torch forward. People like myself, my parents, people who actually help keep us in the forefront to remind people that we're going to celebrate Juneteenth today. And we also have to do that because it helps us keep economic equality in the forefront, right? And I'm reading my notes here. I took copious notes. Voter suppression. That's another way that we fight and we honor Juneteenth, is to fight against voter suppression. We talked about how every way that is tried to keep us from voting, to poll taxing, when they had to guess how many marbles were in a box or in a bowl, and if you guessed that right, then you got to vote. And they put like 1,000, 2,000. I mean, come on. I mean, just ridiculous ways that they would try to keep us from voting. And of course, mass incarceration, that was designed to keep us from voting and from advancement, right? If you lock up large numbers of men and women, break up families, you stop progress, because one of the quickest ways to ensure economic success is to stay together as a family. That's one of the surefire ways. A nuclear family is one of the surefire ways to equal economic success. So mass incarceration came to keep us broken, right? This was not by design. I mean, this was by design. This was not something arbitrary or something that was haphazard. So this is how we keep Juneteenth alive. You know, it's a celebration, but it's really a call to action. I'm gonna say that again. Juneteenth, today, it's a celebration, but it's really a call to action to do what you can to ensure that our people stay equal. Because I'm telling you right now, there are powers, there are people who their sole purpose is to enslave us through legislation, economically, politically, religiously, and educationally. Very important you understand that. So how do we keep Juneteenth top of mind in today's climate? Educate year round. Educate year round. This shirt I bought 3 years ago in Nashville. I'm black every day, but today I'm blackity black, right? And it says the date, 6/19/1865. That is for education. When I'm asked, what does that mean? I explain what Juneteenth means. And I do it with pride and conviction. I don't cower, don't kowtow, don't say it with a whisper. It's my people celebrating our freedom, our true freedom in this country that was denied to us. And then it was delayed to us for 2 years after the proclamation was made in 1863. So year-round education, demand that we teach Black history in our public schools. That's why you have to vote for your school board. Don't get me started on this. You have to vote for your school board. Then you can demand your school board. This is what you teach my kids. Now, if they don't want to do it, I know we want to say, oh, it's up to us to do it. No, it's up to us to vote for them to do it. That's why we voted them in. They don't want to do, we get them out. But we're supposed to do it at home as well. Economic empowerment. Remember, you got to keep Juneteenth top of mind because of what it represents economically. Remember, Jim Crow was designed to stop our economic progress. during Reconstruction. I want you to do me a favor. Google Reconstruction. Google Reconstruction and look how thriving we were. You got to understand something. We were called inferior, yet in a few short years after slavery, we had all black towns thriving with shops, businesses, churches, schools, thriving. Here comes the Klan. They're jealous. Well, they're supposed to be inferior. Why? How do they have all this and we don't have all of this? So what does the Klan do? The Klan goes to all the Southern governments and threatens, if you allow these freed people to run in government, run in economics, to run in, we are going to do something to you. So what do the Southern governments do? Stop our progress. And then what happens? They do the Jim Crow laws. The Jim Crow laws. Here comes the prison industrial complex on the 13th Amendment to put us in prison. Here's what was so beneficial to slave owners about that. If you're a slave owner and you have a plantation of slaves, you have to somewhat keep them healthy because that's your labor force. But once you have the state paying for it, now the slave owners have to pay to keep their slaves somewhat healthy. But once you let the prison system pay for the labor force, I mean, hey, the prison's paying for it. So they would enslave these freed, formerly enslaved Africans to do what? Work for corporations. Work for corporations. I want you to Google, and Lopez put this on the screen, Google New York life and slave reparations. New York Life Insurance Company, one of the largest in the world, got itself to be very profitable by selling slave insurance in the South. They would go to the South, they would sell policies, slave policies. And man, I tell you, they cleaned up. They cleaned up. I'm not going to go into that right now because it pisses me off, but Google New York Life and slave reparations. New York Life tried to make good on what they did. They knew they were wrong, so they tried to hire a whole swath of black financial agents for them as a way to give back. Come on, man. Give me a break. Give me a break. Don't get me started. Economic empowerment, I already said that. Civic engagement, all right? It keeps you connected to your community. It keeps you connected to have something that you came from. A lot of times in this country, people talk about African Americans not really being African, not really being American. So we're kind of caught in this limbo, right? Well, civic engagement allows you to be tied to something, okay? So a lot of cities across the country celebrate Juneteenth. Here in St. Petersburg, we do as well. Shout out to Mayor Ken Welch. It helps you fight voter suppression laws, right? Keep this stuff top of mind. You encourage, this is very important, political participation on the local level. I know people love to talk about the president and vote for the president, blah, 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 and that's all well and good. But you got to vote what's called down ballot. You have to vote for your local politicians because they're the ones that run the engine. The president is just a figurehead at the top of the car, like a Rolls-Royce figurehead or a Mercedes figurehead. But the engine, that's the local politics. That's where you get down and dirty. That's your attorney generals and your judges and all the people, the school board that try to keep our children suppressed. Now, of course, they're going to say, oh, no, we don't do that. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. It's innate. It's just something that's done. It's either we have it or they have it. It's not an all-inclusive. It's never been. This country's never been all-inclusive. They just say that. Cultural preservation. Of course, it's our culture, right? The diaspora. We came here. Some of us came here on many ships. Many ships. You know, people always say, where are these slave ships at? How come we don't see the slave ships? They were retrofitted. They were regular commerce ships. These boats, they weren't built just for slavery. They were built for commerce. They would take commerce back and forth. And then when slavery became the big business, they just retrofitted the boats for Africans. And then after it was over, they retrofitted them back for, to take commodities back and forth. So a lot of the ships were not designed just for slavery. They were retrofitted, or they were fitted for the purpose of slavery. And then they were after slavery, they were back to what they carried, whether it be commerce, this, that, and the other. Here's something that you got to really understand. Why we keep Juneteenth top of mind in today's climate: for mental and spiritual health. You cannot separate our spiritual and our physical health from our history. It's hard to do that, right? That's why they call it, black churches, white churches. When you're going to a black church, pretty much, especially in the South, what the singing is going to be like, what the dance. That's cultural, right? That's something that helps our mental and physical health. We cannot break away from that. Those things are tied together: our spiritual, mental, and our physical health. And then these are for conversations for our generations. We got to teach our kids about Juneteenth. A lot of people still don't know what Juneteenth is all about. I think it's one day. No, it's a movement, not a day. It's a movement that's continued since June 19th, 1865. And it's never going to go away. As long as I'm alive and my children and my children's children are alive, it's never going to go away. Right? So Juneteenth is not just Black history. It's American history. It's a reminder that freedom is not given, it is fought for. And nobody knows how to fight for freedom more or better than African Americans. I'm sorry. We lead the reason that immigrants can come here and have a great life is because the groundwork we laid in the civil rights movement. And not just civil rights in the 1960s, the civil rights in the 1860s. You guys got to remember, while slavery was going on, a lot of us were free up in the North, in New York and Boston. We would have meetings. We would have these conferences to discuss how we can have economic freedom. In the 1800s, we were doing this. In the 1700s, we were doing it. We've always been doing this. And we've always been met with opposition. I wonder why. I wonder why. I wonder why. Because if we are the inferior race, then why are we met with opposition? Because we're not inferior. Now, I want to go over some few other tidbits before we stop. How many of you knew that Juneteenth was still very invisible and very unknown to the bulk of America for 150 years? The bulk of us did not know about Juneteenth. I'm just so lucky and blessed to have gone to an HBCU, historically Black college university, Bethune-Cookman University. We were taught so many wonderful things about our people. It was such a blessing, and I'm so blessed to be an HBCU alum. We were taught so many things about our people that I never knew. And I was taught Black history growing up, but a lot of it was, what we just didn't know. When you get to college and you study under great professors and you really delve into, the history books, and you go and you look into research libraries, you see, papers and newspapers of how we were, what we did, it will blow you away. Blow you away. I'm going to leave you with this. We need to share Juneteenth with our family every year on 2 dates. January 1st, we're going to read the Emancipation Proclamation. Lopez, put that on the screen. I want you to make sure they put that. January 1st, the Emancipation Proclamation was given. January 1st, 1863. Every January 1st, you need to read that. And of course, today, June 19th, 1865. No, today's not 1865. Today's 2025. But June 19th, you need to study and remind your kids about Juneteenth and be proud of it. Be proud of it. And then not just remind your kids about it, remind your community, but actually stay involved, get active, join a civic organization celebrating Juneteenth. Go to a parade. Go register to vote. Have your family register to vote. When you realize how many people died, I mean, I'm talking about tortured. I'm talking about hung and dismembered because they wanted to vote. Why is voting so bad? Why was it so bad? So that's what I want to leave with you. That you have to get socially active to never let Juneteenth die. Never. And it never will. It doesn't matter what this country does to erase us. They've tried for so many years. I told you, Carter G. Woodson was told in the 1920s, that we're going to erase all accomplishments of black Americans. He said, no, we're not. And he started Negro Achievement Week, which ended up being Black History Month. And Jim Crow tried to erase our accomplishment of Juneteenth. They didn't do it. And now they're trying to erase artifacts, museums, dates, as if we're going to just disappear off the face of the earth. One thing you got to know about us, we are God's chosen. And as God's chosen, we will never go away. I'll make a quick example before I go. I travel all across this world. And you can go anywhere in this world. Everybody in this world knows 5 famous African Americans. Everybody. No matter where you go. No matter where you go. No matter where you go. You can go to Japan. You go. Doesn't matter where you go. Is that by accident? No. That's because we always shine through at the darkest times. Everybody knows our history. Everybody knows our fight. Everybody knows our talent. I was looking at a video today of a Filipino DJ cutting and scratching and mixing. That's from the Bronx, New York City. I remember about 3 or 4 years ago, I was watching this concert in Iceland, and they were singing Annie Up. Who's Annie Up by? Lopez? What's the group? Annie Up. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. It's not Mobb Deep, is it? M.O.P. One of the baddest beats in hip hop history. In Iceland, the crowd, all Icelanders, singing the song verbatim. I'm blown away. Who knew? So no matter where we go, people know who we are. They know our talent. They know our heroes. They know who we are. You cannot erase us. So I want to thank everyone for joining me. Once again, this is Big Coop, part of Felons Ain't Failure 42. I just took you to class on this special Juneteenth edition, and I want to say thank you and peace out.
3, 2, 1, go!